Welcome. My name's Dawn Motkins, the director of the Southern California Black Worker Hub. We are excited for this entire education series. Just a recap about who the hub is and what Echo Black Voices is and what our apps are and the purpose of this. We'll do some acknowledgments of our CWAP partners, our California Worker Outreach Project partners. We will do some grounding with Earth Lodge this evening with Cynthia, and then we will get to our two exciting guests tonight that will share with us a little bit about accessing the construction trades industry, specifically for Black women, and then some current events with the American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE, and we will have some discussion more intimately, bring back that the outcomes from your intimate discussions, and then we'll just talk about any next steps, any other events we all want to be aware of, and we'll close. So, real quick in the chat, if you have been here before, put a one in the chat. If you have been to any of the Echo Black Voices series, put a one in. If maybe you only been to one or two, and if this is your first time, put a two. If this is your very first time, put a two. Just want to get a sense for, you know, who's in the room. If we're, speaking of family, if we got some new family here, OG family. Oh, a lot
That's
of
a lot
twos.
of newbies. There's a lot of
It's great. Welcome, y'all. This is it's a family space for Black workers. So the Southern California Black Worker Hub is a hub made up of Black worker centers and other anchor partner organizations from throughout Southern California. So we support and organize and coordinate with Black worker centers who are all across the region: San Diego, Inland Empire, Los Angeles Black Worker Center, that is our anchor worker center. It's been around for 15 years. High Desert and Long Beach are in processes of incubating their worker centers. And so, and then our other anchor organization partners are the Earth Lodge Center for Transformation, that brings in a lot of wellness for Black workers, and then also Care at Work, that provides a lot of data, research reports on the status of Black workers today. So that's just a little bit about who the hub is. We work very closely in partnership with a number of statewide coalition partners. One is the California Coalition for Worker Power, which is where our CWAP work lives, which is the California Worker Outreach Project, which is all about outreach, engagement, education around worker rights. we, for the hub, we recognize and understand that we have been living in a Black jobs crisis, right? And we know that we're dealing with that at an exacerbated rate under these current conditions, under authoritarianism and federal attacks by this current government. And so, as a regional hub with our Black worker centers and partners, we're addressing that by through an initiative that we call Echo Black Voices, and through our apps. So we are echoing the voices of Black workers and their interests and needs, and power building efforts, but through our apps initiative, which stands for access into various industries that we want to be in: new industries, traditional industries, growing industries, pathways into various careers into those industries. Some industries have a clear pathway. We want to access those and provide them to you, to your region, to your organizations, to your family, for Black workers. And then, and some industries don't have a pathway, in which we are working with different unions, labor partners, community groups, responsible employers, right, to create those pathways. And then the other P is for protections for Black workers, right? So making sure that we are pushing and winning policies that are changing conditions, improving conditions for Black workers in the workplace around workers' rights, worker justice. That is where our organizing work lives. That is where our incorporating wellness at work lives. And so this is what Echo Black Voice is. That is what our apps are about. That is what these monthly education series are about. Every month it's about different access into different industries, presenting information about how to access career pathways, and often integrating current events that are relevant for our people right now, which Kendrick will do with us later on in the evening. So, chat screen open. Let me close it. So, yeah, we work very closely under the CWAP program with various state agencies like the Department of Industrial Relations, the Labor Commissioner's Office, Division of Workers' Comp, Cal OSHA. So for our folks who are dealing with um, any violations of workers' rights, discrimination, et cetera, our worker centers and including the hub have direct line of coordination with these state agencies to assist in addressing those violations. So I'm going to pass this to Darren because we want to acknowledge our CWAP partners who have been throwing down. Let me share a little bit about it before Darren introduces them. Like, we have been in a process of expanding partnership and coordination. Like, we have got to move together if we're going to be talking about building power. So even organizations that may not see themselves as a worker organization, they might be more of a service provider. They might be more of an advocate based organization. They might be focused on narrow issues like housing or reentry or reparations, right? But they want to develop and incorporate a worker view, a worker lens into their community work. So these are organizations that are like, yeah, we focus on these things, but we recognize we're also workers and want to make sure that we are safe at work, aware of our rights, and are equipped through learning about organizing to address those rights when violated. So here you go, Darren.
Don, you pretty much you gave my spiel right there. uh but so I will just acknowledge the folks that I see like real quick in the room. I know we have Earth Lodge on the call. Of course, DemoChicks, who is one of the co-hosts tonight, who will be kicking us off in a minute with a beautiful presentation. I think I saw some folks from LA, Inland Empire, Long Beach, but yes, to Don's point, and I'll just keep it real short and brief. The purpose and intention with this work was to maximize our reach. And so we expanded out to other Black-led organizations to continue this work. So to Don's point, you don't have to just be a movement organization. You can be a Black organization that wants to actually incorporate worker rights education and pathway conversations into your everyday work. And so the idea is not to expand what our partners are doing, but just to incorporate it and bring us together as a community and make a much larger and bigger reach through our efforts with this educational series and the workout in the streets and in the community as well. So yeah, I'm going to pass it. Oh, actually, no, go ahead, Don. Next, because this is the essential part.
With Cynthia.
Yeah, go to the next slide so I can introduce.
Oh, apologies. Yep.
So, for all the newbies in the room, before we actually kick off our education and our conversation for the evening, we always invite our partner, Earth Lodge, Center for Transformation, to ground us in a much needed practice by their choice, of course, because we do understand with some of the conversations that we have as it relates to workplace history in regards to Black folks that a lot of things can come up. And so we want to honor that, we want to make space for that, and we want to make sure we're creating a safe space for everyone involved. So without further ado, I will introduce the fabulous Cynthia. Queen, do your thing.
Greetings, everybody. Greetings. And welcome to this space. My name is Cynthia Thornburg Ruffin. My pronouns are she, her, and revolutionary angel. I'm from the Earth Lodge Center for Transformation, which is a nature-based wellness center that's located right in West Long Beach. And our huge belief and the tenet that we base most of our work on is that if we are able to enter and when we are able to enter in right relationship with the earth, then the earth has everything we need, right? I'll stop there. Come visit us and get more. And why it is important for us to be here in this setting is because we believe in wellness and we believe that we have the right to be well at work and that work should not hurt. And if something is going on at your workplace that hurts, and you bring that home into your home life, and it makes even more hurt. So, with that said, before we start today, we're going to just do a little work, a little grounding, just to bring us fully into the space. Because sometimes, on the one hand, you're coming in with a day of things that were on your head, and sometimes it's hard to leave those things at the door. So, on the one hand, we want to leave things at the door that we don't need to have in here with us right now. And on the other hand, sometimes when we have some of these conversations, they're triggering and activating. So understanding that we have the tools that we need to re-regulate ourselves, right? To bring ourselves back into a harmonious state. So, right from where you are, I invite you to sit, both feet on the floor, both feet, so the bottoms of your feet right on the floor. So don't cross your feet at this point. Both feet flat on the floor. We're doing grounding work on your hands. Your hands can rest nicely on your lap, palms down, right? Grounding, palms down. If we're doing receiving work, we usually do that palms up. So palms down. And right now, right from where you are, just don't even have to close your eyes yet, but I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath in at your pace. Nice deep breath in through your nose. And then an exhalation through your mouth or your nose. It doesn't matter. And at the end of that exhalation, close your eyes. Excellent. So at your own pace, let's start to breathe, right? So the invitation is to breathe in through your nose, nice and deep, and to breathe out through your mouth and or nose. In your own pace, just get a little bit of that rhythm going for yourself. Breathe in and out. And in and out. Very good. And the rhythm that you're making, keep that rhythm going. And from here, I would like to invite you to drop a grounding cord from your tailbone right at the base of your spine. It's an imaginary grounding cord, right? But you're going to imagine a grounding cord that's coming right out of your tailbone. And that grounding cord is going to go right through the ground, through the floor that you're sitting, where you're sitting, through the concrete and the rock, right into the rock and the lava, right down to the center of Mother Earth. Quite literally, no pun intended, Mother Earth is our rock, right? She will hold us. And breathe in and out. Keep breathing at your pace. Now, that grounding cord doesn't have to look like anything specific. Whatever comes into your mind, that's your grounding cord, all the way down to the center of the earth. Breathe in and out. Now, over the course of your day, all the things that sometimes things are good things that you're still thinking about, or things that you wish never happened, or things that you're thinking about that you know you need to do tomorrow. None of that matters right now. All those things, take them and drop them right down that grounding cord. Mother Earth will take them and recycle them right back out into the earth. And when we're done our session this evening, you'll still be able to look at those things if you need to. Hopefully, you'll look at them with a little bit of a different perspective. Breathe in and out. And now, on your exhalations, that is when you drop things down the grounding cord. And then Mother Earth has stuff for you too. So up, right back up through your aura, Mother Earth is going to send you some beautiful earth energy. So breathe in and pull that energy right into your belly, into your chest, and breathe out. Breathe in, accept your gifts from Mother Earth into your belly, allow it to warm you up into your heart, and breathe out. And let's take one more breath in and out. Knowing that when we become and when we get into right relationship with Mother Earth, that is where we can find solutions. When we get in right relationship with Mother Earth, that is where we can find solutions. When our energy is all frenetic, we can't even see the solutions that are right before us. Breathe in and out. And that Mother Earth energy, just let it wash right over you and lift you up. Let's take one last breath in, nice and deep. And out. And when you breathe out, open your eyes, coming back into the room with us. Your hands that are still on your lap, just pat your lap a little bit, come back into your body. Sometimes it's easy to go like, ooh, wait a minute, let me go on out. No, come on back in because we want to be present for the goods that we're going to get this evening, right? Hoping that this opens you up so you can really hear all the information that you need to hear this evening. And if something comes up kind of activates you a little bit or triggers you, remember, just go back to breathing. Breathe and let it go out and breathe in Mother energy, Mother Earth energy. Thank you, everybody. Welcome into the room. It's going to be a really wonderful evening. And I invite you to take notes and listen intently and be fully present and in your body this evening as we talk. Welcome and bowing out. Thank you.
Cynthia's never bowing out. Thank you, Cynthia. Yeah, we recognize the heavy work we do, and it's important to ground. We appreciate you. Thank you. All right, we are going to get into it. Next screen, I'm going to step back, introduce our guest tonight, Erik Miller with DemoChicks, who will talk with us about access for particularly Black women into the construction trades industry. And then also for the next 30 minutes, half of that will be with Erik on that topic. And then the second half will be with Kendrick Roberson with AFGE to talk about what is happening right now, particularly with our government workers. So we'll get into it. So let me, without further ado, it is all yours, Erik.
Well, thank you, Dawn. And I also just wanted to thank Cynthia. That was much needed to start our conversation. So I just wanted to make sure that I send my thank yous to her. She does a fantastic job. All right. Well, as stated earlier, my name is Erik Miller, and I am the Director of Special Projects for DemoChicks. DemoChicks is a nonprofit that was started in 2019. Centered around getting more women of color into the construction trades. Next slide. And so the mission of DemoChicks is to nurture the interest and talents of women of color in fields of architecture, construction, and engineering through STEM workshops, mentorship, and experiences. And so the organization was founded by a chemical engineer in Robin Thorne, who is still involved today. I could tell her story, but I think it's better if she tells it for me, as we have a short video. Next slide. I'm sorry, play the video.
I would like to be an engineer.
I would like to be an architect. I'll be most interesting would be a contractor.
I would like to be an architect because in our community, our girls need to see images that represent them. In 2018, I started DemoChicks because I wanted to provide an opportunity for girls to be introduced to non-traditional careers. I wanted them to know that opportunities existed outside of the careers they were familiar with. I wanted them to know that construction wasn't just for boys. And I also wanted them to know to be in the construction industry didn't necessarily mean that you had to play in the dirt. Like as a CEO, I don't play in the dirt. My friends joke with me, they say you point, right? And you sign checks and cash checks. 16 years ago, I started on this journey of entrepreneurship within the engineering field, and I founded CTI Environmental. We are an engineering, environmental, and project management firm. In 2018, my company CTI demolished a federal prison. It was our first job with the Department of Justice, so we were really excited about that. And during that process, there were 3 women who worked on the project. The contract manager, myself, and a friend I was able to provide an opportunity to because she was between jobs. And she worked as a general laborer, didn't have any construction experience, but she had she had taken a safety course, a 40-hour HAZWAPER course. And I was able to provide her that opportunity and make more than $42 an hour as a general laborer. And that really got me interested in how I can share that opportunity with others, especially women. And then just introduce girls to the fact that while we want them all to go to college, realistically, not everyone's going to go to college. But here's an opportunity for them to get a safety certificate or some other type of certificate and still earn a decent living for their families. The reason why DemoChicks focuses on women of color is because as I'm out in industry, I don't see a lot of people who look like me. And I think it's really important because if we're not intentional about creating more women of color in these industries, then it's not going to happen. And I feel it's my responsibility.
Organizations like DemoChicks are crucial for the future of engineering because they fill a need in the workforce development pipeline for the region.
At DemoChicks, I feel it's important that we provide hands-on experiences for the girls so that they can really get into it and remember the experience. Because if someone's just talking to them, they'll hear it, they may remember it, but if they experience it, they feel it and they get excited about it.
I think the K-8 programs offered by DemoChicks are extremely important. The earlier you can get to students and increase awareness about future career paths might influence the direction that they take in middle school and high school. So for example, in Long Beach Unified School District, students choose their high school pathway in 8th grade. So just the more awareness they have of the various choices they have in front of them before that time, the better of a decision they're going to be able to make.
I feel it's really important for girls to see who they want to become. And the reason why it's important because if they don't see it, they don't know it exists or they don't know it's possible for them.
So in addition to lack of access and exposure and possibly even encouragement, I think another factor why women are still underrepresented in engineering is simply because they don't see themselves represented in the field. When you don't see many others who look like you, who are in the field and succeeding, it's just all too easy to conclude that you don't belong there.
Our mission at DemoChicks is extremely important because when you think about girls being introduced to these careers that they would have never known about had they not been introduced to DemoChicks, it's life-changing. Also want the girls to know that it may not be easy all the time, but it's worth it. And to put in the hard work. And as long as they don't give up, they'll be successful.
So that's just a quick snapshot of kind of the origin story of DemoChicks and some of the programming that we have currently. Now, I want to dive into some of the more finite work that we have centered around our young Black girls and our program called Build Girls Up. Uh, Next slide.
Yep, let me come back to our share and
So first, we'll talk about why. Why should we hire more women, especially Black women? Unfortunately, when it comes to the field of construction, women are a little bit shorter than 10% of the entire field. And we're talking about over 1 million jobs throughout our country. And we're talking about one of the fastest growing industries, especially in LA County. Uh, Mayor Karen Bass stated that we're expecting a little bit shorter than $28 billion, with a B, billion dollars worth of work before the Olympics arrive. So that is a lot of money, a lot of opportunities. And it's organizations like ours that are centered around making sure that Black women are part of this large influx of work. Now, for a company standpoint, next slide, it's beneficial. Now, as a man, I love being a man. It's fantastic, but I'm a previous architect myself, and I recognize the absence of our women, especially Black women in this space. But more importantly, it is seen from the Pearson Institutes that organizations that have better representation are more successful with their contracts, but more importantly, they're more successful when it comes to working together. I think that organizations who have a more equity-based approach are just more successful, and we've seen that proven on too many of instances within the organizations like the Long Beach Unified School District, to the construction field, to our work in engineering. Next slide. I shared a little bit about our mission and values already, talking about our goal in getting more women of color in architecture, construction, and engineering. But one of the things that I appreciate about Robin and her vision was the monikers that we carry, one of which is we knock stuff down to build things up. And this was a principle that we used when it came to the start of our newest cohort of young ladies called the Build Girls Up program. Next slide. As when the organization first started in 2018, it was centered around hosting pop-up workshops, which were fantastic. Then, unfortunately, we had the pandemic in 2020, and DemoChicks moved to an online STEM workshop component. But now in 2026, not only do we have a robust uh, a cohort of young ladies within our Build Girls Up program, but we're also hosting things like our interview series for women in the workforce. We have a scholarship program at the end of the year in August that has raised and given out over $40,000 to African American women in fields of architecture, construction, and engineering. And we've been able to serve over 1,000 women in the county. Next slide. So I talked a little bit about our programs, but I really want to talk about the principles in which these programs are based on. One is that we encourage our women to consider non-traditional trades. I think that more often than not, there has been the misnomer of men's work and women's work. And that misnomer couldn't be further from the truth, as there are every career that is available within the space of ACE should be available to women and men alike. One of the things that's been important to DemoChicks in regards to the structure of the organization is also making sure that we have a clear network of professionals. Now, as I shared earlier, unfortunately, women are less than 10% of the entire work field in construction. To that, Black women are less than 1%. And we're talking about $100,000 careers, and unfortunately, there's a huge lack of representation. So we have taken upon ourselves to create a network of women who are in this space. And at this moment, we have a little bit shorter than 100 women that are in the space of ACE that we use as mentors, that we use as volunteers, that we've honored at our big gala in August. all of which are important components to really just reassuring and reaffirming this network of women that are participating in a male-dominated field. And I shared a little bit earlier about the mentorship roles earlier played by the women in our program, but all things considered, that part to me is probably the most important because, as many of you have probably heard before, when you see it, you can be it. And so giving our young ladies an opportunity to see other women who are in this space, though they may be the minorities, they are doing excellent work. And that is acting as an inspiration to our young ladies in the Build Girls Up program. So DemoChicks has 4 programs that are currently operating. One I've already shared a little bit about, which was the DemoChicks Online. That was the birth child of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our second program is probably one of our most popular, and this is where a lot of people know us from. And this is DemoChicks on Location, where monthly DemoChicks participates in community events. We work with schools. We've worked with government entities to do pop-up STEM workshops to not just introduce people to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but really to break the misnomer of careers in architecture, construction, and engineering being men's work, as we introduce young women to other women in the field and show them kind of the parallels of some of the science stuff that they're learning in school and how it has everyday impacts. The program that I'll be talking about a little bit later on is our Build Girls Up program that is in support of CWAP. All things considered, I couldn't be more proud of the work that has happened thus far. I have my friend and colleague Eboney Pearson, who is our ACE navigator, who will be sharing a little bit about some of the workshops that have occurred thus far. And last but definitely not least, from a program standpoint, we have our Demo Scholars component. And this is our scholarship program where we've awarded over $40,000 to young women who have gone on to either go into the construction field and they need money to cover their dues, to women who need money to cover their tuition as they go and get their degree in engineering or in architecture, so on and so forth. And so, all things considered, all 4 of these programs have truly been a blessing to the women in Southern California, especially women that are in the space of ACE. Next slide. So now a little bit about Build Girls Up. So the Build Girls Up program is a 9-month, 8-session-long group mentoring program centered around supporting young women between the grades of 8th to 12th grade in their interest in careers in architecture, construction, and engineering. We have had the beautiful opportunity to take these young ladies on a series of tours and participate in some really fun workshops, from a gingerbread architecture workshop to taking them on site to some active construction sites. I have my friend and partner, Ms. Eboney Pearson, here to share a little bit about some of the workshops that she's been able to support as well.
Thanks, Eric, and it's lovely to see everyone. I've had the pleasure of being with our young ladies in 2 different sites. One being at an architectural studio where they get hands-on experience and exposure to the industry. So it's so important that we are providing our young ladies an opportunity to actually see what it feels like to be in the field and know that, again, it's not always dirt, but sometimes it's an office setting. It's being exposed to the type of individuals we see that could be your future coworkers, potential colleagues in the field, seeing the type of tools that they don't normally see at school, like in the office that they would use for blueprints. Um, and then also having exposure by having the group attend. More recently, the Society of Women Engineers had a summit. And so having our ladies be on a college campus, speak to professors in the industry, being able to meet other women who are professionally engaged in the field with advanced degrees, and also seeing students who are on their very own journey within the field of STEM. So it's just so important that we are exposing our students to seeing what they don't always see so that they can also be able to identify and see themselves in the field. It's a wonderful program. I think it's you can see it in their eyes when they're surprised to see women in the field at various degrees, advanced degrees. And then the level of comfort that they can actually feel in this environment when they're being encouraged and affirmed to be in that space. So it's just so important that we have these inclusive opportunities so that we're building the pathways for our young ladies to thrive. And I'll pass it back to you, Erik.
Thanks, Ebony. And so, another component of Demo Chicks that's important to us is really just being out in the community and letting young women see other women in the field. And so, we'll often have booths hosted by local engineers, by local contractors, all women of color to show young ladies that there are women who are in that space, but more importantly, that if they see it, they can be it. And so, you can see in these photos here, this is us at the KJLH Black Women's Health Expo, and we had a number of little girls to young women who have expressed interest in these careers, and so it was a humbling opportunity to be a part of this expo in particular. Next slide. Scholarships for women in STEM. And so often people don't think about construction careers as science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but that couldn't be, once again, further from the truth. As every day, folks who are electrical engineers or working as electricians for IBEW are absolutely using a lot of the same skills that they learned when they were in high school. To that we have worked closely with our labor unions as well to promote opportunities for young Black women in particular in the construction field. And so we know that when you're entering into the labor force, especially when you go into union labor, there are oncoming costs. With those opportunities. So we're talking about the cost of the PPE, that's personal protective equipment. That's the cost of initial tuition. So obviously, like partnerships with the carpenters, there's an initial tuition cost that comes with that. All things considered, it's important for us as Demo Chicks to help eliminate some of those barriers to entering those construction opportunities and or higher education opportunities. And we do that by providing women that express interest with $1,000 scholarship. Our scholarship opportunity, our scholarship window is actually going to be opening up again this coming May, on May 15th. So I will be sure to make sure that I share that link with the greater group so that we can get it out to our further Southern California partners. But all things considered, our scholarships for women in STEM are an important component of the work that we do. Next slide. The way that we are able to accomplish this great work is through a number of great supporters, both philanthropically and businesses. And so we have a gathering of all of those supporters annually in August at the Breaking Barriers Gala. Since 2019, we've honored a little bit shorter than 20 women who have been in the space of ACE. But more importantly, we have raised over $1 million worth of support for young women. And so there's been a lot of hard work that's gone into building the Breaking Barriers Gala to the impact engine that it is now. Last year, we had over 250 guests. If anybody's been to Antioch Church or Ovation Square, we hosted our gala there and we packed the house. We were overwhelmed with the heightened levels of support we received from the county supervisor all the way to the president of the LA Fed and Yvonne Wheeler. And all things considered, it was truly, truly a beautiful event. We will be hosting our 7th annual Breaking Barriers Gala on August 15th over at the Museum of Latin American Art. And so I will be sure to extend an invitation to you all at the end, but I'd love to have your support. But there's many of different ways that you can get involved. There's not just at the gala. If you are someone who would like to volunteer or to become a sponsor at our large gala, if you or somebody who is in the space of architecture, construction, and engineering, and would love to be a mentor, would love to be interviewed by our young ladies, we would love to have you. And also, the easiest way that you can get involved in support of the organization is giving us a follow on social media. We know that social media can be a fickle tool, to say the least. But all things considered, we like to continue to just show positivity, post our opportunities, but more importantly, inspire young women in this space. And so to have continued followers on social media really are important to us and impactful to our young people. So, all things considered, that is our presentation for DemoChicks, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen.
Makes me, I have two sons, makes me kind of wish I had girls to put them through this program to give them the kind of access that you guys have been able to provide to young women in this industry. Thank you, Erik, so much. Please stay with us, y'all. Erik will be on till the end. If you have questions, we can put contact information right now in the chat. I saw some message. Oh, great, they're already in there. So contact information is in there if you want to contact DemoChicks directly. We are going to have some discussion about both of the topics this evening, right after our next guest. So hold your questions, thoughts, reflections for the discussion and for Erik when we come back. We're going to transition a little bit while we're providing, addressing this Black jobs crisis through pathways like this. We also recognize that the attacks are real. Yes. And so thank you, Kendrick Roberson, for being with us tonight, who's going to share a little bit about what is happening right now, the impact on Black workers. There's a young Black worker movement happening, and Kendrick will share that with us now.
Hello, everyone. Greetings. I hope everybody is doing well. Thank you all for joining, and thank you all for having me today. So my name is Dr. Kendrick Roberson. I am National Vice President with the American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE. We are the union that continues to hold the line for the United States of America. We are the union that represents federal and DC workers. And if you've been following everything that is going on, then you know that federal and DC workers have been fighting tooth and nail for the sanctity of work and for the value of our people. And so I'm going to give you a couple of things about the impact of the Trump administration on federal services. That also includes services that you all rely upon. But I wanted to really dig in on some of the things that are happening that are impacting our workers as well as our Black community. All right, perfect. So again, we'll follow this framework, talk about federal worker refresher, just so we can all know who the federal workers are, talk about these mass layoffs, talk about these DEI attacks, talk about some of the ways that we are fighting back, and then talk about the young worker movement that we are spearheading right now that we can all become a part of. And so if you all could, I actually have this up here right now, and you can scan that QR code, and it doesn't require you to download anything. It'll take you directly to your browser, and it will ask you what if you can give an example of a federal job. And I would like to know, and you can also, if you'd rather, you could put it in the chat as well, to see what are we thinking of when we think of a federal job. Okay, I see we've got police in there. TSA is a big one we'll be working at. So we do have different law enforcement agencies, not necessarily the police that you see that you should see in your communities or directly in your communities like the local police. But we do have, for example, like VA police officers and things like that. Feds, absolutely. So TSA is a big one. I see air traffic controllers. That's going to be wildly important. Department of Education workers, absolutely. IRS workers are federal workers. They trying to get your money for the government. Postal workers, absolutely. IT services, I like that because those we have a lot of workers who work in IT to keep all of this whole thing going. United States Postal Service, absolutely. Federal prosecutors, interestingly, they are also considered federal workers, but more so on the judicial side. Social Security, absolutely. Social Security, those folks who are representing not just people who are elderly, but also those children that are in need and those people that have disabilities, right? And people who remain after the untimely death of a family member. Nurses, lots of nurses, right? Lots of nurses, absolutely. I think I'm going backwards. Department of Labor, Department of Transportation. So you get VA workers, workers at the Veterans Affairs, right? So we've got federal workers all over. I haven't seen anybody put this yet, but I oftentimes like to think about food inspectors. Food inspectors are federal workers, right? We go to events all the time, and what's going to happen if federal workers stop inspecting your chicken? Right? What's going to happen if federal workers stop inspecting the kidneys of cows to ensure the milk is safe enough for our families to drink? Right? So we have these workers that are working in all of these different walks, housing and urban development, right? All these different jobs, we have them at the federal level, and they are there to provide services to all of the people here in these states. Let me see. I'm going to go to the next slide here. So again, there are over 2 million federal workers nationwide. AFGE is the largest union that represents federal and DC workers. And again, it's the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 820,000 federal workers, right? And many other unions also represent federal workers as well. So there are some, they represent some portion and I've listed a few of those that are right here. But for the most part, most of the federal workers are represented by the American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE. So when Trump he began his campaign for his second term, he wanted to reduce the federal workers in the United States. He wanted to reduce the number of federal workers in the United States. And he had this guise of saving money, but that is not really how it plays out. All right. Instead, uh, this the idea is that you could reduce the federal workforce, and then as quiet as it's kept, we don't just sit on our hands all day, federal workers. We don't just sit on our hands all day. And so, as we talked about earlier with the jobs that we do, if you get rid of the federal workers, the work that we do still has to get done. Veterans still have to get serviced. Food still has to get inspected, right? And so what happens is if you're able to get rid of the federal workers, then you could essentially provide for a private company to come in and do the work instead, and then pay a premium on that work, and then allow for friends of politicians to reap benefits, right? This is something that we've seen recently with some of the leaders in this administration, trying to find out where money is going or how contracts are being given to some of these entities, and it seems a little dubious, right? And so that's something that we're trying to go away from, because when it comes to the bottom line, right? If you ask a person that works at the VA, what is your bottom line? It's not boosting profits to shareholders. It's not, right? Their bottom line is the healthcare and safety of our nation's honored vets. And so that's what you get when you have a worker in particular that whose job in order to start is they come in and they swore an oath to protect and serve the people and to uphold the American Constitution. So that's something that we always look forward to, right? But then there has been this massive reduction in labor. And so let's see, just to ask a question, I have a question here. How much has the labor force been reduced since the Trump administration has taken office? You get to see if you scan this QR code here, you can look at your phones and it should be popping up for you right now, and you can participate in that if you would like. But the question is, and you can also put it in the chat if you need to. What percentage do you think this the that the let me see which question are y'all seeing? There you go. Sorry about that. So, how much has the labor force been reduced since the Trump administration has taken office? I had one asking for your name. But yes, here you go. Would it be less than 5%, 7%, 9%, or 12%? So, I give you a couple of seconds to answer that question. Okay, let's see. Your answers were 12%, and 12% is correct, right? We've actually seen the reduction the number of federal workers serving the American people by 12% already since Trump has taken office. In California, Nevada, and Arizona, we had 50,000 AFGE had 50,000 members who were voluntarily paying dues in 2020 and 2024, and now in 2025 we're down to under 25,000. And a lot of that is because there have been those like forks in the road emails that were coming out telling people that they're probably going to get fired anyway, so they should go ahead and take the fork in the road. That was the conversation that a lot of workers were having, even though it was untrue. There were hiring freezes that were ensuring that those people aren't replaced, and things like that, putting extra pressure on the workers who remain. Because, like I said earlier, the work still has to get done, and these are folks who have sworn an oath to serve the American people, and so they are trying to keep that oath and trying to honor it, but with less and less staff, as many of us are familiar with happening over time, right? And this is something that's been especially happening over at the VA, where we're seeing hiring freezes. You'll see the VA secretary come online and say, we've hired more people than we have in the last few years, but they're not keeping up with in the hirings that they do, which are limited. They are actually not keeping up with the amount of people who have not been able to remain on the job, who have been removed from the job, be either laid off or in any of those scenarios. And so we're actually seeing a net decrease in the number of workers that we have at the VA. Uh-oh, Cynthia came through with the fastest answer to that last question. And so I just think it's important here as we move into some of the more specific impacts to understand that as far as federal workers are concerned, they'll have you believe that we have just this very bloated federal workforce. Like there are so many federal workers in these United States that maybe we don't need that many federal workers. They'll have you believe in that every other person you meet is a federal worker collecting a paycheck from the federal government, and that is just simply not true. This graph right here shows the proportion of the workforce that is the federal workforce, part of the federal government that operates in all of our states and our territories, and it's currently at around less than 2%, right? And so we're talking about a very small number, and that proportion has been going down. As you can imagine, it peaked during World War II, but the proportion of people of federal workers that we have relative to the growing size of America has actually been on the decline. We actually have fewer and fewer employees servicing more and more people. And this is the workload that we're talking about. And so again, 58,000 confirmed layoffs. It didn't make sense, so much so that they actually had to hire many people back, and we had to fight for that, right? We had this guy buzzing around our government. He had a name. His name was Elon Musk, right? He tried to be a chainsaw guy, went around with a giant chainsaw saying he was going to slash the federal workforce. And you know what they did? Here's an example of how ridiculous what happened they were being. They had fired nuclear arms handlers in Amarillo, Texas. They fired nuclear arms handlers in Amarillo, Texas, not via email, not realizing that you need those workers to handle the nuclear arms that we have safely, right? You can't, these people are actually doing work. They fired them, and then they had to call them back and say, hey, we're sorry. We realize now that we shouldn't have fired you. please come back to work because it's actually incredibly important that you do your job. Right? We had truck drivers who were driving across the interstates with nuclear parts in their in their rigs in their trucks. Were driving around the country with nuclear parts, and they got an email while driving saying, "Hey, your services are no longer needed." Now they can't just leave that on the road, right? But this just goes to show you what we were dealing with when it comes to the random firings of the federal workforce and how it was impacting our communities. There were also 76,000 buyouts because there's a lot of stress on people. Like they wanted to put these federal workers in trauma. And I'm not just saying that. This is something that they had in that Project 2025. One of the authors, he actually said, hey, we want federal workers to wake up and not want to go to work in the morning because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. We want to shut down their funding. We want to put them into trauma. That was Russell Vought. He is now the leader of the government under this Trump administration. And he said that with his full chest in HD. Right. So these are the things that that we're looking for. And we're seeing vacant positions getting cut. And those are the things that we're trying to fight back. And then on top of all of that, let's ask this DEI question because DEI was a big topic and continues to be a big topic because whenever something goes wrong, per history, they want to blame DEI. And so I'm curious as to what you can put in the chat as well. What do you think of when you think of DEI? When you think of DEI, what do you think of? This is you. Somebody type in there. Somebody said black people. You think of DEI, think of white women, absolutely. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Granting access to underrepresented groups. I like you keying in on the term access. I think that's really important. Yeah, let me see. Oh, sorry. Let me see. We had black people, black folks are the best creation ever. As a black person, love to see it. People with disabilities, absolutely. Can't forget the A. DEIA is always under there. Underserved communities, absolutely, right? These are the things that we think of when we hear when we see DEI. But I'm gonna ask you a slightly different question now. What do you think the Trump administration thinks of when they think of DEI? What does the Trump administration think of when they think of DEI? Someone said black people again. Yes, black people again. I like the use of blacks as far as understanding what they're thinking of. Unqualified people of color, right? I see they can't stand non-white people having inequity. The blacks, all right. Underqualified minorities, anyone not them, right? So I think from what I'm getting from what you all are saying is that when they're thinking of DEI, when the Trump administration is thinking of DEI, they're thinking of something different than what we are. And I have to tell you that that is incorrect. The truth is, the Trump administration knows exactly what DEI is, as we understand it. They know exactly that DEI is not the idea of giving unqualified benefits to people of color who don't deserve it. They know that that's not true. They know it with every part of who they are. They know it. But their actions are not based on what they know. Their actions are based on catering to supporters who don't want, who actually have these false beliefs that you all are saying. And so they're catering to that message. And that's really important for us to know because our battle is not with trying to convince the Trump administration to say, hey, you all are wrong about what you think DEI is because they already know the truth. Our battle is making sure that that there are people who are on the fence, and there are people who are on the fence who aren't very into politics, right? That need us to tell them what DEI actually is because they're getting conflicted information. Because that is a political strategy that the Trump administration is using right now in order to undermine the progression that people of color, people with disabilities, women, right, have been able to achieve through making sure that there is equal access to these opportunities. And that is why you have these two executive orders here that were dropped for DEI, ending radical and wasteful governmental DEI programs and preferencing. That was on the first day, right? And then on the second day, ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity. Now let's talk facts, right? These are nonsensical executive orders because any DEI program that existed with the federal government, there was no program that allowed for benefits of employment to be given to someone based on their skin color. For the federal government, it's literally illegal under the 1964 Civil Rights Act. It's specifically illegal to give somebody benefits that they are not qualified for based on the color of their skin, based on their gender, based on any number of personal characteristics. So we already had merit-based, merit-based promotions, merit-based access to opportunities. Now, but what the DEI programs did was it said, hey, let's ensure that we expand the pool of candidates to include more people that maybe historically were excluded from even applying to the opportunities or being aware of the opportunities. And when you expanded the pool, when you saw people of color in those positions, when you saw women in those positions, when you saw people with disabilities in those positions, it wasn't because they were handed that and they were unqualified. No, it's because they were actually the best candidate for the job. See, that was already what we had going, but it doesn't fit the narrative that would help him get elected. So that's what we're up against is making sure that the people are informed because those politicians that are saying these things, they already know what we know. All right. And this is something that we always have to fight with. We had people at the Department of Education who were fired, specifically black women, because you know that there has been black women have had higher unemployment under this administration, especially relative to every other group. We've seen 300,000 black women lose their jobs, and we had a lot of black women lose their jobs at the Department of Education. And it would be things like we had a black woman who lost her job. She lost her job because of the DEI executive orders. And it's not because she was a DEI expert. It's not because her job revolved around DEI. It's not because she was on any DEI committees. It was because a couple of years ago under Biden, her boss recommended a series of classes for her to take, and one of those classes was a DEI class, one of many. And they used that as the reason to fire her. Now, since then, we have actually gotten a lot of black women and a lot of people in general at the Department of Education rehired into their jobs because we fight back and we win. But those are the kind of things that we're fighting against, stupid things like that. And we have to continue fighting. And these are some of the ways that we fight. But one of the things that will really help us. Because what they've tried to do now is because we've been able to win in the courts and we've been able to win in public opinion, is they've actually tried to attack the collective bargaining agreements, the union contracts with all of these federal workers. They've tried to attack the union contracts. And so they've stripped hundreds of thousands of workers, federal workers, of their union contracts, um, meaning that these workers are significantly less protected, and these are contracts that we've already negotiated with the agencies. And so we're looking for right now, we have bipartisan support for what's called the Protect America's Workforce Act. And you can scan the QR code here if you would like to sign and get a message sent to your senator, um, which your senators are probably going to be on board. But we ask people to do this nationwide. And basically, Trump signed an executive order to take away collective bargaining rights for people like, for example, the VA and the food inspectors that I like to talk about, right? That Trump said in his executive order that these positions are considered national security. So if you're a VA technician, that's helping scan, internal organs for things that might make you sick, you are now considered national security, and therefore you don't have union rights, right? If you're inspecting food every day, to chickens to make sure that they're safe, cows to make sure that they're safe for us to consume, you're now considered national security, right? It makes no sense. And we're fighting that in the court. And we've had some wins already. We've been able to secure our TSA contract back. We've been able to get our VA contract back as well. So lots of great things happening there. And yeah, so last but not least, I'll talk about this shutdown here. If I'm reading that right. So I'll talk about the shutdown. So right now we're experiencing a shutdown. Our TSA workers are who we represent, and we have been fighting nonstop. They've been going for a long time without a paycheck, but they've been forced to work because they protect us at our airports, they protect our airways, they protect our flights, and they've been forced to come to work because their jobs are essential. And they have not been paid in over 40 days, missing rent. Some of them are becoming homeless. They are lacking the basic necessities of life. Today, I went and delivered baby formula to TSA workers because there were many of them who don't have baby formula and their families need it because they cannot provide breast milk to their kids for one reason or another. And baby formula is literally keeping their kids alive, and it's expensive. And so I hate to be bleak, but that is the reality that we're living in when you have people who are coming to work every day and not getting paid. And so we need to make sure that these folks are taken care of. Congress is at a standstill, and it relies on us to make sure we're calling our members of Congress, us on this call, that we're calling on our members of Congress to hurry up and fund the government, fund TSA, and DHS, Department of Homeland Security, so that they can get paid. And then with that, I'll skip over to the end. And if you have any questions, you can always let me know. Thank you, everybody.
Dr. Kendrick Roberson, thank you.
Absolutely.
Greatly. I remember I had a friend who was a VA staff, and it was so disheartening that she had a long-standing case before Trump took over, and because the month right before her meeting about her case, they had, just snatched people's unions, which means snatching people's rights at work. Just took it, right? We know how this administration is being. She now went through this process for a year, finally got to her meeting and had no union rep, had no assistance, had no way to support her against, some cricket management. And so, and you stepped in and lended some resources on how to get that support. And y'all, it was retired um, union reps who were stepping in, volunteering their time to support these VA workers. So people are stepping up in amazing ways. Erik and Kendrick stepped up tonight. Y'all, can we get us some emojis? Like, I don't know if we all came off and I don't know what to do. I'm just grateful for both of y'all sharing about the pathways for young women in engineering and construction, and grateful for Kendrick with all of this information. Please come off. Can y'all please come, if you are willing to show your face and your smiles and your bright eyes at this? Yes, y'all, Erik and Dr. Roberson, look at the screen. It is lighting up. Like, we know that most of us are in the public sector in these government jobs. We know our friends who work for the city. Our families told us you grow up and you get you a good union job because it's providing benefits. And we have our families were able to purchase homes off of these good union jobs. So the attack on our unions, the attack on our rights, the attack on our government workers is an attack on us. And so we are doing both, right? Addressing the Black jobs crisis in many ways through policy change, through organizing, through creating these industry pathways. So appreciating y'all so deeply. It is 7:52. We initially were going to do a breakout. Those of us who put up a 1 in the chat earlier, you know how we do. We break bread together. In a moment of breakout, we chew on all the good stuff. We come back with some answers to some fine questions. So what we're going to do now with these last about just a few minutes, 5 minutes or so, I want to invite you all, if you have specific questions for either Erik or Dr. Roberson, feel free to drop them in the chat. They can answer them in the chat. There are 2 questions for our group tonight. We're going to drop them in. And these are in relation to the Black jobs crisis. And Happy, I'm going to drop these in the chat now. So there are 2 questions, right? Again, feel free to ask your specific ones. We're asking our guests to respond to them in chat, but also we want to leave with this for tonight. You all's voices is important, just as important as Dr. Roberson's, just as important as Erik's. So Angela, Rashida, Kay, Kiana, I'm looking at the names that are on my screen. We want to invite your voices in the chat. If there are some burning reflections, we invite them. We also want to close with just some calls to action. And so these are the questions. And when you answer it, just put a 1. Oh, that second question should be a number 2. So just put a 1 next to your answer. So for DemoChicks, the question to you all in the room, what more might be helpful to secure and access these career pathways and protection for Black women in the engineering and construction trades? What more do you all here in this room feel like might be helpful, right, and or possible to help continue and deepen securing career access and protections for Black women in engineering and construction trades? The second question is for the public sector government employees, where many of our folks work. What actions do you feel like we can collectively be taking right now? These attacks are happening right now. People are taking action all over the country, around I want to say our friends at AFGE says the body snatchers. We know it's state violence. It's not just ICE. It's the entire police state, right? That is coming from marginalized folks. So what actions do you all feel, Tina, Elmore, Jasmine, Lauren, that we can be taking right now in response to these federal attacks on our people? So those are just 2 questions. Again, feel free to ask your direct questions to our guests. But if you could take a moment and answer either one of those, just put a 1 next to your answer for the one regarding securing access and protections for Black women in engineering and construction, and then a 2, what can we be doing right now to take action against these federal attacks? And drop those in the chat, please. And as you do, I want to invite Darren real quick. Darren, if you want to offer our calls to action, and then we can just open it up. We know folks may need to leave at 8. We want to honor the time, but for those who want to linger for a minute, we can do that. We can ask our guests if they're willing, and we can do that too for a few minutes after 8. But Darren, I'll pass it to you as folks answer in the chat.
Howdy, folks. Thank you for staying with us. I don't know what's wrong on my throat. Jesus Christ. Thank you for staying with us throughout the evening. A few things. Our next Echo Black Voices session will happen the last Wednesday of next month, April 29th. We'll have another co-host in the space, another expert to facilitate conversations just like this. Another industry sector that we'll be focusing on just like this. So definitely come out, be with us, be in community, all the great things. Excuse me, y'all. Jesus. And also, I will drop in the chat a workers resource guide. If you have been here before, you've seen this guide. It definitely gives you all the pointers as it relates to navigation in relation to filing a claim, talking to some local community partners with anything that is worker rights related. So I'll drop that in the chat here in a second. And then we also have a wellness guide that is called You Good. It has resources for local Black therapists in Southern California that you can talk to. We have a Zen dope playlist that you can use to unwind, and a ton of other resources in the manual as well. So I'll be dropping those in the chat. And like I said, April 29th is the next session. Come be with us. Thank you all so much. And I'm gonna throw it back to y'all. Ask Dr. Roberson and Erik all the questions until we rock out for the evening. Love, peace, and all the black hair products that are out there. Yeah, amazing.
I love these hair grease.
I didn't want to say hair grease, all the black hair products, period.
Yes. So, if anyone at this point, we can open it up a little bit. If you have just a burning affirmation, an essential question, an amazing offering about actions we can be taking right now, the invitation is here. Also in the chat, but one or two that want to bring it out loud, feel free.
Done. Is it okay? We stop recording for this part as well.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, y'all. We're gonna stop recording so we can talk as freely as we need.